Zelenskyy is about to be abandoned. The more vigorously the West praised him, the more resolutely it is abandoning him now. On Air Force One, Trump publicly blasted Ukraine's corruption scandals for derailing peace talks. In other words, Zelenskyy is no longer useful, it's time to replace him. Trump accused Zelenskyy and his team of treating U.S. aid to Ukraine as a cash cow, embezzling public funds to line their own pockets, and having no desire to end the war. For as long as the fighting continues, U.S. and European aid will keep flowing, allowing them to keep sucking blood from Ukraine. Trump's words were blunt and ruthless: as long as Zelenskyy and his clique remain in power, peace will never be possible. The implication is clear: Zelenskyy and his team must be ousted from office and replaced with a neutral leader who not only serves U.S. interests but is also acceptable to Russia. Only then can peace talks proceed. In this year's -long Russia-Ukraine conflict, Zelenskyy has gone from being a U.S.-crafted anti-Russia icon to a disposable tool in great power games. The recent corruption storm sweeping Ukraine is not so much an accidental judicial action as a carefully laid pretext by the U.S. to change horses. Zelenskyy's team has been implicated en masse. A criminal group led by the former energy minister laundered nearly $100 million, and the mastermind was even Zelenskyy's former business partner. The golden toilet he left behind before fleeing sparked public outrage. Even Yermak, Zelenskyy's most trusted chief of staff and the core figure in Ukraine's negotiations, was searched on suspicion of corruption and forced to resign. In just 20 days, the Attorney General, Energy Minister, and Presidential Chief of Staff have successively fallen from grace. The ruling coalition is on the brink of splitting, and lawmakers are threatening to quit the party to demand a purge of the team. This is not a simple anti-corruption campaign. It is clearly an attempt to dismantle Zelensky's power base. Trump's public accusation that corruption is hindering peace talks has even set the tone for this political purge. The U.S. needs a more obedient proxy, not a scandal-ridden, unruly troublemaker. Zelensky's tragedy lies in the fact that he truly believed he was a leader resisting Russia, yet forgot that he has always been a pawn manipulated on America's chessboard. The U.S. supported him initially because it needed someone who could unite Ukraine's public opinion and stand up to Russia. Now it is abandoning him because his existence has already become an obstacle to America's strategic calculations. The core demand of the Trump administration is clear: end the Russia-Ukraine war as soon as possible. On one hand, domestic opposition to continued aid to Ukraine is growing louder, and the U.S. corruption scandals have turned aid to Ukraine into a political stain. Pouring more money into it will only drag down election prospects. On the other hand, only by ending the war can the U.S. restart interest exchanges with Russia, lift some sanctions against Russia, secure cooperation in energy and rare earths, and even allow U.S. capital to take advantage of the opportunity to seize Ukraine's post-war reconstruction market. But Zelenskyy is not cooperating. Signing the peace agreement would make him a historical traitor. Refusing to sign would result in losing more territory after defeat. Zelenskyy's insistence is completely opposed to Russia's core demands and has also blocked the U.S.'s negotiation space. What the U.S. needs is a pragmatic proxy, someone who can both endorse U.S. interests and accept some of Russia's conditions, and obediently sign the peace agreement. Since Zelenskyy is unwilling to be this puppet, he is naturally destined to be ousted from office. This is the cruel logic of great power games. For Russia, the Zelenskyy government's hard-line stance will only prolong the war and lead to a protracted drain. This is by no means an optimal solution for Russia either. The U.S. taking the initiative to propose a government change in Ukraine has precisely hit Russia's core demand. As long as Zelenskyy steps down, subsequent peace talks can proceed smoothly. This is why the West accuses Trump of favoring Russia, but, in essence, it is nothing more than a tacit understanding between the U.S. and Russia on discarding Zelenskyy, sacrificing a pawn to exchange for their respective strategic interests. Zelenskyy once thought he could hold on to power with Western support, yet he forgot that the value of a puppet is never determined by themselves, but by the interests of the puppet master. Initially, the West sent him weapons and aid and stood by his side because he could help the West drain Russia. Now that he has become an obstacle to peace talks and a political liability in U.S. domestic politics, he will naturally be abandoned without hesitation. The U.S.-Ukraine talks in Florida seemingly made progress, but in reality have already sealed Zelenskyy's fate. The talks explicitly mention Ukraine's election timetable. This is paving the way for a new government to take office. Today, Zelenskyy faces a governance crisis domestically and has lost absolute Western support externally. He is like a used consumable, and only abandonment awaits him. In this grand drama, There is no such thing as justice or evil, only naked interest exchanges. The West's hypocrisy, America's hegemony, and Russia's toughness have all ultimately turned into Zelenskyy's tragedy. Yet the fate of the Ukrainian people has been repeatedly coerced and sacrificed in this great power game. The script of killing the donkey after it has finished pulling the mill has already been written. Zelenskyy's exit is only a matter of time. And the next act of this game will only see a new proxy take the stage, continuing to serve the interests of major powers. As for the genuine peace that Ukraine desires, it has never been a priority for the players in this game.